Even if you've got the upper hand, or so you think, there's a reason that I tell you to avoid social violence. Today's video is brought to us in part by the generosity of LuckyGunner.com. For the best selection of name brand defensive ammunition and lightning fast shipping on bulk target ammo, head to LuckyGunner.com and thank them for being a sponsor of Active Self-Protection. Hi everyone, this is John with today's Active Self-Protection lesson out of Wolverhampton in the UK. Here we're going to see a bar brawl that erupts, and we're going to see the tables turn really fast. These guys are just chilling in a bar when the guy with the beard here comes in with his buddy in the hat behind him, and it's definitely a social fight here when he's going to step up to him and stick his chin out. And when the guy doesn't give him the answer he wants, he pops him once there in the mouth, and the guy still wants to talk. Nope, it's not talk time, it's fight time. And so our guy with the beard grabs a hold of him here, and he's going to slam him down and really go to work on him. And you can see his partner right behind him near the top middle of the screens just kind of hanging out. And this dude's buddies are kind of hanging out as well, just like, well, he's going to take himself an educational beatdown. And that's exactly what it looks like we're looking at here. That I don't know the reasons. If you have that, please put it in the description for me, in the comments rather, and I'll put it in the description. But he's really whooping on this guy, trying to get him in a rear naked choke. And when that happens, one of the guy that's being attacked buddies just goes to work. And now not only does he stomp his buddy, but he's going to stomp that guy too. And that guy's going to get some chair, and all of a sudden it turns into a WWE cage match here with 2-on-1. These guys are going to whip him with a chair a bunch of times, and those two dudes are completely out of it. And then the original victim and his friends are going to bounce out of there, sped it up for time. These guys are going to shake the cobwebs off, and this educational beatdown ends with an education going the other way. Boy, that one escalated and the tables turned in a big fat hurry. Did you know that we have a second channel at Active Self-Protection? We call it Active Self-Protection Extra, where we do everything related to self-defense that aren't the daily narrated videos. Head over there if you want that kind of content. Out of this particular lesson, I want to think about the reason that I say to avoid social violence. We want to talk about avoiding these things. Next, we want to talk about the importance of empty-handed skills and why multiple attackers present such a unique danger. Friends, I say it all the time, you got to stay away from social violence. You see this guy here is spilling beer and all this stuff. You got to stay away from these kinds of problems and understand your verbal judo and understand how to just say, hey man, I'm sorry, let me buy you a beer. Let me give you that my bad 20 or something like that. Hey, let me get out of this problem without us having to come to blows. And that means dying to your ego. And every self-defender needs to recognize your ego is not worth defending. Your social status is not worth defending. Just get the heck out of there. Say you're sorry. Give the guy a way to save face. Now, as the fight's getting going, notice here that this first victim is standing there with his hands down with a guy who's angry in his face. That's very much a posturing thing, and that's very much something I see men in many cultures do, is they get up in each other's face. But as a self-defender, you got to recognize your hands down like that opens you up to attack. When somebody wants to close with you, you got to get those hands up to protect your head and neck. This is a principle of self-defense, that he is going to try to knock you out, and that's exactly what goes down here, is as when he gets tired of talking about it, he punches him right in the face. Now we're going to see it again as the guy keeps his hand down until the bad guy throws a left hand at him there. He threw the right hand before, the left hand now. You cannot let a guy inside your space and not have your hands up, especially someone you know has already thrown a punch at you. Now the educational beatdown begins, and it's kind of interesting that the guy's friends don't jump in here originally, but you got to have some empty-handed skills. This guy, obviously, I don't know what he did to make this guy mad, but he ain't got the skills to back up whatever the heck it was that this guy is just whooping on him. Now, let's think about the fact from the friend's perspective, as this guy's getting his beating on, that his friends are just kind of hanging out there. And I think a lot of people, you know, if they're out with friends, they're like, well, my friends will protect me. That might be the case, but it might not, and I wouldn't necessarily count on that. Maybe, you know, if your friends are really tight and everybody really knows how to fight, but they might just let you do the beating if they feel like maybe you deserved it. So another reason to stay the heck out of fights. Now we see this guy here, very little ground skills, very little ability to defend himself. Friends, you got to have empty-handed skills to keep yourself from just getting whooped on like this guy did. It's one of the reasons that I say you got to train, man, and training, of course, de-escalation, escape, and avoidance and all that stuff. Now, when his friends is going to finally decide to get into this fight here, and he's going to decide to get after him, Friends, sometimes the tables turn pretty quick. So let's think about these initial aggressors. One of the reasons I don't want any active self-protection fan, any aspirant in the world to be an aggressor is because those tables can get turned on you in a hurry. Not only that, it's also obviously morally, spiritually, legally wrong to be an aggressor. We never want to be in those kind of conditions. But this guy just thought he was just standing around being moral support for his buddy, but the other guy took that as an offense as well. Now, our big, bad, strong guy who was just putting a whooping on the other guy, not so strong when somebody who actually shows up with some skills and is able to land those hands is able to get back in it. So just because you can whoop on one guy doesn't mean you can get it on another. And so a bully sometimes ain't as good as he looks if somebody who has attitude and skills and plans show up. Now, let's think about from a legal perspective here. I want to talk about this and recognize that, when you start hitting a guy with a chair, now we're using a weapon. Now we go from a fist fight. Now we go from an assault to an aggravated assault because you used something on him, used a tool that could cause him grievous bodily harm. And we talk about this kind of stuff on the Extra channel all the time. Firearms Legal Protection has sponsored a whole bunch of legal discussions on the Extra channel. So make sure you go over there and think about those because I want you to be able to defend yourself from not just the physical perspective, not just, of course, spiritually and emotionally, but legally as well. And no better than to use these kind of things because that can definitely be seen, especially with him on the ground like that, as aggravated assault. What we also see on the right-hand side is that the friend who stepped in is now stomping the head of the guy who he knocked down. And a shod foot, a foot with a shoe on it can definitely be considered a deadly threat. And once again, this went from, hey, I'm defending my friend, to an aggravated assault. So again, go over and check out some of those videos that are sponsored by Firearms Legal Protection. I think they can help you. So finally, these guys are going to bug out of here. And friends, once again, let's keep our ego at bay. Let's keep out of these kind of fights because they can get us in big, big trouble. And then finally, from this perspective, guys, don't instigate fights because you know what? You might run into somebody who is bigger and badder than you. Instead, check your ego and cover your asp.